Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of IronmanHacks. I'm here with Neil Edge, who's a triathlon mindset coach. And mindset, to me, is one of the best things and easiest things to start with. If you can't train up, at least train your mind up. So let's hear from Neil and hear what he has to say. And the first question is really how to maintain motivation in the off season. Neil, what are your thoughts on this?
Thanks, Andrew. I think it's an important one because many of us, certainly in the Northern Hemisphere, are coming into the off-season now. Races have just finished. And so the first one, and it really is very important, and that's to take a break from structured training. We're all focused on Training Peaks and other software that we're using, and we're very, very structured throughout the year. But our mind creates associations, and we need to take a little bit of a break now to go off and do something else. So it might be that you're jumping on a mountain bike, running on a trail, playing golf, or whatever it is. But I think the important one, especially for the mind, is to give it a break. So take a little bit of time off from structured training and go off and do something. Keep yourself moving, but do something that you really enjoy.
So basically break up that monotony. Get out of the same routine that you've been stuck in, not stuck in, but the routine that you've been doing when you've been seriously training and do something else?
Absolutely. Just keep the body moving. It doesn't need to be intense. We need to, to give the body a rest. There's a real mind-body connection, and we need to give both a rest. And so just take some time out, keep the body moving, whether it's a walk, whether it's playing golf, whatever it is, just give yourself a little bit of a break. You don't need to just take a complete rest, but just keep it moving in whichever way you find enjoyable.
So I guess some of the problem here is some triathletes might feel like, hey, but I should be using this as a time to, build back my fitness or maybe they don't want to take a rest. What's the problem with that?
Taking a week or two off, and I'm not talking about months here, I'm talking about a week or two. So taking a week or two off, it's like a taper week. Your fitness is, you've created all of that training. Taking a week to calm down, to ease off a little bit in your taper week, it's exactly the same thing. You don't lose any fitness. And we know that. And so taking a week or two off, enjoy yourself. It means that you're giving the body time to heal, you're giving the mind time to heal, and then you're able to jump back into your structured training again. But it's absolutely beneficial and something that we all should really focus on.
So it's basically recuperating both not only physically but also mentally, and really coming back stronger.
Absolutely,
burnout.
Hitting the refresh button here as well as here.
Right. Now, how powerful? I mean, of course, we know the mind is extremely powerful, but I mean, you're a mindset coach. So how do you feel like the mind reset is as important as the physical reset? I mean, physical reset is, we let our bodies recover. We rest physically, but mentally, what are we alleviating ourselves of by not looking at Training Peaks, by not looking at a program? What are we doing to ourselves?
Well, it's purely and simply that, really. There's a simple answer. It's just a reset. Our mind, with pre-race nerves, pre-race anxiety, with how the mind's affected when we're injured, and other elements too. And it's just really giving it a break, giving it a reset. We just need to take some time. And, mental health is really, really very important now. And it's so easy to overload our mind. And at times we need to give it a break. We often need to be kind to our body. We need to be exactly the same with our mind as well. And it really is very, very important. And I'm going to go through some tools and tips and techniques that we can use to aid that later on, including mindfulness and other elements too.
Great.
It's point two, really. And point two relates to when you're back to structured training. Taking a week or two off really will help in terms of that mind reset. But then when it's back into structured training, we don't just want to jump straight back into 10, 15, 20-hour weeks straight away, full-on training in that build phase. We need to create those positive associations in our mind again. It's really very important. And one way to do that is by adding 1 or 2 sessions in each week that you really enjoy doing. A lot of people jump straight back into structured 3-4K swims, and that's great. But going from sort of, if you like, 0 to 100% again, will only last for so long. So it's at times that we need to go off and do a swim where there's no structure, where there's no specific set to it, or jump on a bike and just ride for enjoyment so that you really enjoy doing, because what you're then doing It's creating those positive associations in our mind rather than the negative aspect to it. And so just asking your coach, or if you're self-coach, just to throw in 1 or 2 sessions where you really enjoy. So if you're doing a swim, jump in the water, if you feel like stopping after 1K or 2K, whatever that is, do it. If you feel like swimming a different stroke, fly or backstroke, do it. You know, on your run, get out and run a trail that you really enjoy doing. We don't need to get straight back to the track. Throwing sessions in like that, and even during the season, will absolutely help as part of maintaining your longevity in the sport. And that's what we're all looking for at the end of the day, both from a physical, but also from a mental perspective. And so in the early stages, and even later on, throwing in those sessions that you really enjoy doing makes a huge difference, both for this and again, for the mind. And the two are incredibly well linked.
So I always knew that throwing in a few sessions you enjoy was great, but I never contextualized it the way you said it, which is reestablishing or strengthening positive associations. So if you start to dread that interval, or if you start to dread that swim, or dread the, whatever it might be, then you've lost the plot, right? You're not having fun anymore, and you need to reconnect, reestablish that positive association.
Absolutely, exactly right. And it really is very true. We don't need to do it a lot. Our coach would be too happy. I know mine wouldn't if all of a sudden I said, right, this week I want to just swim exactly, how I want to. But the occasional sessions like that make a difference. And it will give you that refresh later on in the season. When we come to December, January, when we're getting closer to our first races, doing those sessions again will just give you that mental refresh. It will just recreate that enjoyment. And that's the reason we do this sport at the end of the day. We want to compete. We're competitors, but also we want to enjoy it. And there is going to be times when we don't enjoy it. I've jumped onto Zwift before an hour or and I said, oh, geez, and I've just got through it. But the majority of the time we want to really enjoy it. And that'll lead me on to my final point on this topic.
That's excellent. I can't wait to hear it. Let's have it.
Final point is quite a big one, really, and that's we all talk about goal setting. Everybody talks about goal setting. Every single post I read, you must set goals from all of the major gurus, if you like, and it's absolutely wonderful and very true. However, for me, I use goal setting in a slightly different context. I focus on process-driven goals rather than outcome-driven goals because, and especially in the current times, although things are improving, races are constantly being cancelled, constantly being moved. We know from all levels, and especially long course races, we've seen Kona moved, we've seen other races moved. And if your sole focus is your A race, you're mentally prepared for that, then ultimately your A race gets cancelled. What happens? You're deflated, you're disappointed, you're not motivated. You've just spent 6 months, 9 months focusing on that one goal, then all of a sudden the goals change. And it does have a huge effect on us. My view is this: use the goal, use your A race or your main races as the direction, and then focus on the processes. Because ultimately, if we focus on the processes, as importantly, if we enjoy the processes, I love swim, bike, run, I love getting into the gym. If we enjoy the processes, then ultimately we're enjoying our day-to-day training. Ultimately, when it gets to our A race, if that is cancelled, we're still developing, we're still moving forward. And so not a problem at all. And when I talk about focusing on the processes, setting smaller sort of targets, if you like, so that there's lots, green light and training peaks each week. My coach will love that. If I can focus each week on, by the time I get to the end of that week, wonderful, all green lights, I'm happy. So it's breaking down those process-driven goals and actually focusing on smaller goals and you feel good. It's a reward at the end. When you've achieved those small goals, you feel good at the end, and then you move on to the next one. And you're simply using that race as a target, if you like, using that race as the direction in which you're traveling.
But it sounds like what you're saying is you're really taking back control. And in uncertain times when, any race could be canceled, any time. I mean, even with the weather, look at California a few weeks back, right? The weather was crazy, right? Anything could happen. And if you put all your eggs in that A race basket, and you're not gathering, your fulfillment and happiness through your process getting there, then you've lost control. But if you've placed all your goals, if you've done process-driven goals, where as long as you're meeting those targets and reaching those bit by bit, you can be a lot more flexible in terms of what your final race may be.
Absolutely. It makes a huge difference. As I said, especially in the current times, we've all done it. I remember when I was younger setting goals in other sports that I've played, and at the end of the day, something happened or I got injured. It can be injury as well. It's not just races getting cancelled. All of a sudden, you plan all year for your A race. All of a sudden, 3 weeks before, you get an injury. And all of a sudden, how does that affect you? In terms of the mental aspect, it really does. You feel generally lack of motivation, you feel down, you feel tired, so whereas focus on those process driven goals just makes a huge difference, and making those small improvements each time, for sure.
That's excellent. Thanks a lot, Neil. Well, everybody, if you like that, please give us a like down below, a subscribe, and add a comment. And we've got more coming up from Neil, and you'll be able to link to those pretty soon. So thank you guys, and see you on the next one.